First I go to text 11. He Bhagavan Uvacha Asocyan Anvasoshyastvam Prajnavadam Chabhashase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanusochanti Panditaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Text number 12. Natta evaham jatunasham natvam neme dhanadipaha nachayvana bhavishyamaha sarve vayam adapparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Moham karodi vachalam. Mangal mange degram ek padamaham bande Shri Gurunam Paramadhamadam Shri Chaitanya Mishra. Hare Krishna. So here in this sloka we see, in the previous slokas we see that Arjuna gave many reasons to Krishna as to why he would not like to fight in this battlefield. So Arjuna was here as a representative of the Pandavas, and after having given so many reasons as to why he does not want to fight, then Krishna actually takes the position of a spiritual master and Arjuna as a disciple. So from here we see that in this verse number 11, Krishna is actually chastising Arjuna, and Krishna is telling that while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief, and those who are really wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So, as you all know, that we are all, this battlefield is just an example. Arjuna is a liberated soul, even with his birth. He's a great devotee of Krishna. And Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, eternally they existed before also. Krishna does not take birth conditioned souls like us. But Arjuna is here shown as if that he is a conditioned soul like us, but actually he is a liberated soul. Now, here, because Krishna is teaching an example to us, utilizing Arjuna as an example. Krishna is teaching us many lessons utilizing Arjuna. For example, when a girl gets married and goes to her new house, the mother-in-law teaches the new daughter-in-law many lessons through her daughter by chastising her daughter. Similarly, Krishna is chastising Arjuna. And why? Because this whole material world is nothing but a battlefield. And at every moment there is a battle. It need not be a physical battle. We all fight battles mentally, physically, intellectually, physically. Every which way, battlefield does not mean that one should pick up his hands and fight. No. We all have battles mentally, intellectually also. And when we are in that situation, when we are conditioned soul, we become bewildered. So here Arjuna became bewildered with the illusory potency of the Lord. And then he gave many reasons to as well as not to fight. So Krishna first chastises him. Now this chastisement of a disciple by a spiritual master is a must, because we see that when a spiritual master chastises his disciple, it is for the interest of the disciple itself. There are some examples which even in our real lifetime we see. When our founder of church, when Srila Prabhupada met his spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakura, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura told him to two things. He said, one is you print books in English language because it's a universal language across the globe, and preach this teachings of Bhagavad-gītā all over the world. But what happened was, Srila Prabhupada, at that time, India was going through the independence movement, struggle in the independence movement, because the British were ruling the country. So when Srila Prabhupada said so, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura immediately chastised Srila Prabhupada. he said that this independent movement and isms, communalism, socialism, capitalism is an ongoing thing. It will never stop. At one time, capitalism will be there, another time, socialism will be there, another time, communalism will be there. We'll see so many leaders coming and also going. Mahatma Gandhi was a great leader. Napoleon was a great leader. Hitler was a great leader. Every leader has come and gone, setting something, and then they've gone. But then those are memories of the past. But the real truth is that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that everyone is suffering for lack of understanding the real knowledge, which is what we are reading today. So the Lord said, you are speaking like a learned man, but you are mourning for that which is not worth mourning at all. And one who is wise really does not lament either for a living person or for the dead. Now we will understand this in a little more in detail. Now, many times it also happens to us that we may make statements or we may make some comments thinking ourselves to be great intellectual personalities, but we may not understand the real truth. So what is the truth here? Krishna is telling Arjuna that one who is learned is one who knows that what is body, what is spirit, soul, and who is the controller of both. Now, body means this material body. Krishna says that a real learned person is one who knows that this material body is going to die. Like it will come in future, in little more in detail in the forthcoming verses, that we are not this body, but we are a spirit soul. It is because the presence of the spirit soul that this body is living. And because of the presence of the spirit soul that the body is growing also. So when one takes birth, he also goes through a stage of growth, childhood, growth, maturity, and finally at some point of time he dies, which is called leaving the body. Now, a person cannot lament that he has lost his youth. Many times people might say, oh, I was so like so and so, I was so beautiful. Even parents might say that when he was a very small boy of 3 months or 6 months, he was so very nice, so very good. If you look at even if you spend any amount of money or any amount of technology, the time has gone. One can never regain his past. He may put a lot of makeups, etc., but he will never come back to what he was when he was 3 months old or 6 months old or even a 1 year old. So when that is gone, there is no point of lamenting. Similarly, when a person takes birth, he also dies some point of time. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna, what is the point of lamenting? Because he's going to die someday or the other. But what is that death? Krishna is explaining here in this purport. That real learned person is one, that there is something called a body, and then there is something called a soul. And one who is in knowledge does not lament because the matter is dead. It's a dead matter without the soul. So there is no point of lamenting for that. And as far as the spirit soul is concerned, it is always existing. Now, here in the purport very clearly is explaining that everyone existed before also, and everyone is existing now also, and everyone is existing, will continue to exist in future also. So what is that existence? It is a spirit soul that exists. This body is made up of 5 gross elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, etc. Now, after a person is dead, there are many ways. Some may bury a body, some may burn the body, etc. All these elements that are there will go back into that respective element. For example, earth will go into earth, water will go into the water. And then again, when a new body is created, from that, again, these elements will be created and another new body will be given. So there is no point of lamenting for this dead material body. Now, if you look at the spirit soul, Krishna is really clearly explaining that you existed before also, and you are existing now also as Arjuna. That is also explained by Krishna in Bhagavad-gītā itself in the forthcoming chapters. And Krishna also says that Arjuna will continue to exist in future also. And that real knowledge means to know that there is something called matter, which is a dead matter, and there is a spirit, and also there is a controller of both. Now, Arjuna actually knows all these things, but Krishna is trying to teach us through Arjuna. So there is a matter spirit and then a controller who is a supreme controller. And that supreme controller is none other than the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. So at some point of time, Arjuna was emphasizing that religious principles are more important than politics or sociology. But he did not know this particular knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, and he was trying to pose himself as a very, very learned man, Krishna actually chastised him. And we hear Srila Prabhupada, in the first line of the purport itself says that indirectly he was chastising Arjuna like a fool. That means Krishna was trying to tell that you are, though behaving like a learned man, but actually you are a fool because you are not having this real knowledge. And this knowledge is given in all the Vedic scriptures. But those who pose themselves as very learned person, but don't have this real knowledge, they are fools. And then we'll go to the next sloka, that is text number 12. In text number 12, Krishna is explaining, never was there a time when I did not exist. Nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Now we will understand this in a little more detail. With some examples from the scripture, we'll understand. Krishna said that there were times. Now time is something, it is flying. Time doesn't wait for anybody. So like I mentioned, over a period of time, people take birth, they grow, and then they die. And people might even need not be separate in that same body, human body. It does not mean that one gets a human body only. Sometimes one can even degrade to a lower species of life, like plants or animals or birds, etc. And some may get even a heavenly body like a demigod. But that body is temporary. As long as one is within that body, there is a lifespan for that body. As you know, everybody has got a lifespan. So everyone who has got these various bodies also have a lifespan. And once that lifespan is which is destined for that person in that body, that is for the soul within that body, he has to go. He's dead. So Krishna is giving examples from Upanishads, various Upanishads like Katha Upanishad, Isha Upanishad, etc., which says that Krishna is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to one's individual work and reaction of work. So when we come to this material world, we perform some activities which is called our work, karma or work. And apart from that, there is a reaction for whatever activities that one performs. So Krishna is the maintainer of all the living entities. Krishna is maintaining not only us, but all the living entities that are existing throughout the universe, not only in this material world, but also in the spiritual world. He's the maintainer. And he's maintaining them depending on various situations according to that work. That means if there is a demigod in a heavenly planet, or if there is a Surya in the sun planet, there's a Chandra on the moon planet, like that there are so many demigods. All of them are controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sun and moon are considered to be the eyes of the Supreme Lord. The sun cannot move without the direction of the Supreme Lord. So that prayer is also given in Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma, Yachakshur is Savita Sahala Grahana. The sun moves purely under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, all the demigods in the heavenly planets, like Indra, we will give some examples after going through this theory. They all work under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his plenary portion, also is present in the heart of every living entity. That means the Lord is situated as Paramatma, not only in the heart of Arjuna, but in all the living beings that are present in this material world. And one who sees this knowledge, sees this Paramatma within and without. So without means actually it's a spiritual master. And within is this Paramatma. So it is said that the spiritual master who is outside is a manifestation of is an external manifestation of the Paramatma feature of the Lord. That means the Lord is present inside everyone as Paramatma. but through which he maintains all the living entities. And at the right time, the Lord expands himself as the spiritual master to give instructions to his disciple, or to one who is to become a disciple, and then teach him various lessons. This is the most important points. And one who can see this Supreme Lord within and without, he is called a saintly person. And such a person, what happens is that he surrenders to this Paramatma, the super soul, and he attains perfect and eternal peace, which every living being is actually looking for. We are all looking for peace of mind and happiness. So many terms are there: bliss, happiness, etc. But we don't know how to attain that. But on the other hand, we are struggling in this material world with this material body. Material body is nothing but a source of trouble for us. But due to the four defects that is present in this material world, we are not able to see in reality. And one who sees this is what is called a real personal knowledge. Then Krishna says that Arjuna and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternal individual beings. And the Lord is the maintainer of individual living entities, both in the conditioned and liberated situations. That means all are individual souls. Arjuna is an individual soul. All the soldiers who are fighting for the Pandavas, they are all individual living entities. That means they are all individual living entities. And Krishna is, as the supreme maintainer, he is maintaining all the living entities on both the conditioned and liberated state. So what is this conditioned state? Those who are in this material world are in a conditioned state because they are not able to see the real truth. And those in the spiritual world, they are liberated because they have realized the absolute truth. That's why they are called liberated souls. And they are always there in the spiritual world because they have realized what is what and who is who. They are liberated from this material condition of birth, death, old age, and disease. And through this proper knowledge, they have reached this status and they are eternally situated in a liberated condition. That means these souls which are there within our material body, which will be explained in the future verses, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā, Mamaivamsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That means all these individual souls that are within this body, they are called minute, they are minute part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. So we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So the example is that in this body, I have a hand, I have legs, I have two hands, I have two legs, I have two eyes, 2 ears, so many things are there. Now, all of them are part of this body. So the constitutional position of each of the part of the limb of the body is to serve the supreme body. That is me as a material body. For example, if the legs are not in the position to be used for somebody might get paralysis, so the legs are useless. Similarly, the hands are not, many people are not able to move their hands. Many people are blind, they are not able to see. So the eyes are a waste. All these parts of the body are meant to serve the whole body. Similarly, we as the spirit souls are meant to serve the Supreme Lord, being part and parcel, the Supreme Lord. That is called self-realization. And one who has attained this knowledge of self-realization is what is a saintly person, and is a person in knowledge. And such a person who practices, not only he has got this knowledge, but practices this process of self-realization, which is what is the teachings of Bhagavad-gītā, which we are reading today. And so many chapters, by the time we finish the 18 chapters, we'll understand that Krishna is asking everybody to surrender unto him because they are all part and parcel of him. In that surrendered stage, they are all called liberated state. And until that one reaches that state, one is in a conditioned state. Why conditioned? Because we are prone to make mistakes. We are likely to be cheated. We are easily illusioned. Our senses are imperfect, which I mentioned in the last class. I will not go into detail of that. So this particular Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is also an individual person. And each and every individual living entity, that is a spirit soul, are also individual living entities. And Krishna, as the super soul, is the maintainer of all the souls, whether they are in conditioned state or in the liberated state in the spiritual world. Now, one might think, how come Krishna is mentioned as the maintainer of all? So that is why this quote is given, the second verse which we discussed today, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So the meaning of that verse is that all are individual living entities, and they are all maintained by the Supreme Lord. Now we might think, how can we say that Lord is maintaining us? If today, tomorrow, the Lord takes away our eyesight due to whatever may be the reason, and this happens even otherwise in the old age, when one loses the power to see. There are many who lose their power to hear, Not only at the old age, many lose their power to hear in this Kali Yuga. Even at young age, they are not, they are deaf. So that power is given by Krishna, none other than Krishna. Otherwise, one cannot see, one cannot hear, one cannot taste, one cannot touch. There are many people who are not able to taste even at a very young age. They don't have a sense of taste, because that power of sense of taste is not given by Krishna. Is given by Krishna to that particular individual soul based on their karma and the results of karma. So that is why it is mentioned that depending on their situation, Krishna maintains these living entities in all conditional liberated state. Now we will understand a few examples that are given in the scriptures. So one example given in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto is about King Puranjana. Now this King Puranjana was a great king. Now Krishna also says in the teachings of Bhagavad-gītā, which we will discuss sometime, Yam Yam Yapis Paranbhavam. That means whoever thinks at the time of his leaving his body, that is at the time of death, whatever consciousness he has at the time of death, that will be his next body. So 3 examples I have picked up today. We will read one by one, depending on how much time we have. So this King Puranjana was a great devotee of the Lord. But somehow or the other, he used to also perform a lot of fruitive activities, pious activities. So what happened was, he was always attached to his wife. So while he was leaving his body, he remembered his wife, and at the time of, since he remembered his wife at the time of leaving his body, he got the body of a daughter of a king called Vidarbha in that very house of the king. So he became Vidarbhi. Why? Because he was thinking about his wife when he left the body. So why? Because whatever state one remembers at the time of death, he attains that body. So King Puranjana was overly attached, so he got a woman's body. But because he performed many pious activities, he took the form of a woman as a daughter of another powerful king. So this is one example. What is the conclusion from this example? He was there as a king, and again he has taken birth as a daughter of a king. Another nice example we'll take, because first example is from same species of life, that means human form of life. Another example that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam is in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which mentions and gives an example of Bharat Maharaj. Now Bharat Maharaj was a very, very great elevated soul. And he was also, it is because from him this whole world came to be known as Bharat. And he ruled the world, entire universe, entire world as a very great king, and also he was a great devotee of the Lord. Now what happened was, at the later stages of his life, one day when he went to river Gandaki, which is there in Nepal even today, from where the Shaligram Shilas and all come, he was chanting a mantra and he was performing meditation. So all of a sudden, at that time, he saw a pregnant deer come to drink water. And suddenly, when a deer is chased by a tiger, what happens is that by a tiger or lion, the deer starts running. So the deer made a loud roaring, and it tried to cross over the river. In the process of that, the deer died. But what happened was, it left behind its calf. But Bharat Maharaj was doing a meditation at the time, and his meditation became disturbed when he heard that sound. And he developed compassion for this calf deer. So he rescued this deer from the water, and he took it to his ashrama where he was staying in Gandaki river. And he took care of it very nicely. In the process of taking care of it, he became very, very attached to it. And the deer was his constant companion because he took care of it. And it reached to such an extent that he was always thinking of this deer, and his mind became very, very absorbed and became always agitated if he was not seeing the deer. Now, deer is a free animal, so it was living freely in this ashram, and he used to roam around. And sometimes when this Bharat Maharaj was not able to see the deer, his mind became very disturbed because he was attached to it. Nowadays, you see people keep dogs, people keep cats. So they, in the process of keeping and maintaining them, they develop attachment. And sometimes there are people who lament also because they have developed so much attachment that when the cat or a dog dies, they start lamenting and they shed tears. But that tears are shed for a very short time. Similarly, when some relative in the house leaves the body, we immediately lament, which is what is Arjuna's example of lamentation. So Bharat Maharaj, when he was, sometimes when the deer was not there, he used to lament. And it so happened that Bharat Maharaj, at the time of his leaving body, he was becoming old. That time the deer was not there. And he was highly disturbed not seeing the deer. So he naturally had to take the body of a deer in his next birth. So he took his birth as a deer cub in the womb of a deer. And then what happens is that he lived in the body of a deer in that same ashrama. But the Lord, being very, very merciful, uh, also because he has performed devotional service in that body as a king, the Lord, that devotional service did not go waste. In his next birth, he was awarded the body of the son of a great Brahmana to continue that devotional service, and he became Jadabharata. I will not dwell into that detail because in that life of Jadabharata, he continued his devotional service, whatever he had performed. And at the end of his life, he got liberated because he realized this self-realization that he is not this body, but he's a spirit soul. So he practiced, he became, from a conditioned state, he became liberated, and then he went back to the spiritual world. So this is one example of how a person in a human body took the body of a deer, and then he again got the body of a human being. So Bharat Maharaj existed in his previous births as a king in a human form of life. Again, he got a body of a deer. And then again, thereafter, he got the body of uh, son of a Brahmana, which was Jadabharata. So he existed individually as a soul before, he existed there, and he existed thereafter also. Only thing was, after he got liberated from this material body, he went back to the spiritual world, which is what is the main teaching in the second sloka, where Krishna says that all of them existed before, all of them are existing now, and all of them will continue to exist in future also. So this individuality is there in each and everybody. Somehow many Mayavadis think that some people think that I will become God after I leave my body, that nobody can become God. We are all eternally servants of the Lord, which is what is called self-realization, being part and parcel of Supreme Soul. And our constitutional position is always to serve the Supreme Lord. And because of lack of their understanding, they are all put into this material world to struggle to attain the process of self-realization. Before I conclude, there is one more example I'll give, which is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam, about Indra, the king of heaven. He was a demigod ruling the heavenly planet. But somehow he performed an abominable activity of developing attachment towards the wife of a spiritual master. So the spiritual master cursed him to become a hog, and he took the body of a hog. So these are all examples which show to say that every soul existed before, they exist and will continue to exist itself. But one can never become God at any point of time, in any situation. One situation is always to be the part and parcel of God and to be serving the Lord. So this plurality of the individual soul, and that the Lord is an eternal fact, this is what is confirmed in the Vedas and all the scriptures. So with this, I conclude the class for the day. Next 1 minute, if you've got any questions, comments on this discussion that we had, you can please ask me. Does anybody have any questions on today's discussions?